In a land of thousands of islands, where the seas embrace the shores and the mountains rise green and ancient, the people of the Philippines looked up at the sky and felt both awe and fear. For many years now, the storms had come. Typhoons, monsoon rains, floods rising like walls of water, landslides thundered down hillsides, rivers overran their banks. The country, this archipelago, is among the most disaster-prone places in the world. World Online Broadsheet Asia. And the suffering was real. Homes lost, lives changed, families displaced, land turned into mud, fields destroyed. Yet in the midst of that tempest, of rising waters and falling skies, a quiet question began to whisper among the people. What is the meaning of all this? What is God teaching us when flood waters rise, when winds lash, when communities are uprooted? It was in this question that the teaching of Jesus began to emerge, like a light in the storm. Jesus taught about compassion. He taught about readiness. He taught about the kingdom of God being like a mustard seed, like a treasure hidden, and also like a wise steward who prepares. In the Gospels, he warned his disciples, "Be ready, for the Son of Man comes at an hour you do not expect." He told the story of the wise and foolish builders, one built on rock, the other on sand. When the rains came and the floods rose, the house on rock stood firm, the house on sand collapsed. In that parable, the storms came not because of fault, but to reveal what the foundation was. And so in the Philippines, the storms coming, the floods, the typhoons, can be seen as an unveiling. They reveal what the foundation is. Are we built on the rock of humility, service, care for neighbor, faithful stewardship of creation? Or are we built on shifting sand of neglect, indifference, corruption, self-interest? The winds and the waters rise. They test what we have built. Consider the many communities in the Philippines. Some live near the sea, some inland, some on hillsides, some in the valleys. When the warnings go out, when the Weather Bureau says heavy rains, some heed them, some don't. Some infrastructure stands, some crumbles. Some have been helped by nature-based defenses, mangroves, reforested hills, proper drainage. Others have found that despite vast sums meant for flood control, the work was weak, the materials poor. Corruption sapped the strength of the defenses. Broadsheet Asia. And so when the storms came, some were prepared, others were not. Jesus said to his disciples, "Who then is the faithful and wise servant, whom the master has set over his household, to give them their food at the proper time? Blessed is that servant whom his master finds so doing when he comes." He taught also that to whom much is given, much will be required. The Philippines, gifted with striking beauty, abundant sea, rich soil, yet also exposed to extreme forces of nature, has been given much. And therefore the task is great. In one small village, a family watched the river rise. They had heard the alarms, they had the bags ready, the children taken to higher ground, the old grandmother moved to safety. The neighbors wondered if they were being too cautious. But the rains came, faster than ever, and the floodwaters crept in. The family was safe. Meanwhile, next door, the house built cheaply, on low ground, the material unreinforced, that collapsed or was washed away. The family there lost everything. In that moment, the lesson of the wise builder was fulfilled. The storms did not discriminate. They came to all, but the outcome was different because preparation, care, foundation mattered. Jesus did not say storms would not come. On the contrary, he said, when you hear the winds howl and the rains beat upon that house, what matters is what house. Matthew 7:25-27. And so the floods and typhoons driving through the Philippine archipelago are a call to be ready, to build well, to serve others, to lay foundations of righteousness and compassion. It's a call not only to physical preparation, safe houses, evacuation plans, proper infrastructure, but to spiritual readiness, hearts aligned with love, mercy, justice. There is another dimension, the neighbor. When disaster strikes, often it is the neighbor who becomes the rescuer. The church, the community, the one who wades into mud to pull someone out, who offers shelter when roofs collapse, who gives bread when fields are flooded. Jesus said, "Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." Matthew 25:40. In the Philippines, when the winds roar and the floods rise, those least may be the fisher folk, the mountain farmers, those living on the margins of the cities. Their vulnerability is high, their voices often quiet. Reports say that the country's exposure and vulnerability remain very high, and the response can be overwhelmed. But in this vulnerability lies the opportunity for the love of Christ to shine. The strong helping the weak, the more able sharing, the community rising together. Jesus teaches that the greatest among you will be your servant. When the typhoon hits, the floods come, the power goes out. Those who serve with open hands reflect the kingdom. The archipelago witnesses not only devastation, but also generosity, early warning networks, community shelters, volunteers wading into darkness. At the same time, there is the issue of responsibility. Jesus also taught stewardship of what we have. If we are given land, we are to till it. If we are given strength, we are to use it for good. If we are given a nation, one might say a society, we are to govern it with justice. And when infrastructure meant to protect the weak is built shoddily, or when resources meant for flood control are diverted, the storms become not simply natural events, but moral reckonings. Reports from the Philippines note how much of the harm comes not only from the storms, but from weaknesses in the systems meant to protect. Broadsheet Asia so. The storms teach both dependence on God and dependence on each other. They teach humility. We are not above nature, we are part of creation. But they also teach action. We must act, plan, build, serve. Now let us imagine the scene, a small church by the coast, wooden planks, weather-worn, the congregation gathered. A storm is coming. The pastor preaches, "My friends, the sea will roar, the winds will lash." But we must ask ourselves, what are we built on? Are we built on the rock of Christ's love? Are we built on the sand of convenience? When the floodwaters come, we will be known by how we love, how we serve, how we prepare. In that service, the people bring stories of the mother who waded through thigh-deep water to bring her neighbor's child to safety, of the fisherman whose small boat helped rescue an elderly couple from a rising river, of the young man who carried sandbags through the night to reinforce his family's home, of the families whose homes were destroyed, and the community who gathered around them with blankets, food, laughter despite the loss. Jesus taught that where 2 or 3 gather in his name, he is there in their midst. When a community gathers after a typhoon, when hands clasp, when meals are shared, when children laugh amid the debris, the presence of God is real. The storms do not define the end, the response does. The measurement is not only in the rising of the waters, but in the rising of the hearts. And further, Jesus said that in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. So when the Philippines sees storm after storm, flood after flood, the people of faith do not despair. They hope. Their hope is not naive. Their hope is active. Hoping means acting, building, evacuating, rescuing, loving. Hope means standing when the flood recedes, rebuilding, forgiving, sharing. At dawn after a major typhoon, the coastline strewn with fallen trees, roofs peeled back, boats overturned, the fields waterlogged. The grieving, the tired, the volunteers, the children splashing in puddles that only yesterday were raging rivers. In the midst of the wreckage, the pastor leads a prayer. Lord, you made the sea and the wind. You hold the mountains in your hands. Yet you also dwell in the broken heart. You heal the afflicted. You lift the lowly. Teach us to build on you. Teach us to serve. Teach us to walk with those who are hurting. In that moment, the community realizes faith is not an escape from storms, but an anchor in storms. The anchor holds, not because the storm is weak, but because the anchor is strong. Jesus is that anchor, but the anchor must be held by the one who acts. who opens the door, shares the blanket, rebuilds the home, protects the neighbor. The Philippine Islands show us the magnitude of nature's power. The data show that distant cyclones, monsoon flows enhanced by storms, bring rainfall beyond what many expect. Philstar. The vulnerabilities are many: geography, climate change, poor infrastructure. But the lesson Jesus offers is universal: love, readiness, and community. The storms are teachers. Listen. When communities rebuild, they must ask, what will we do differently next time? The wise builder doesn't merely repair, he strengthens. In a world where typhoons become more intense, floods more frequent, the kingdom of God invites us to live differently. It invites us to care more for creation: trees on slopes, mangroves by the sea, wetlands to absorb floodwaters. It invites us to care more for each other: evacuation plans that include everyone, especially the most vulnerable. It invites us honesty in governance, in public works, in building without cutting corners. It invites humility, not pride, thinking we are immune, and courage to act, to rebuild, to love. Jesus spoke of a seed falling on good soil and bearing fruit. The Philippines' soils, battered by rain, may wash away unless rooted deep in community, integrity, stewardship, compassion. And as believers, we are called to be that good soil, that receptive heart, that service-filled hand. So let the floods remind us not only of fragility, but of responsibility. Let the winds remind us not only of power beyond us, but of the presence of one who holds all things. Let the rebuilding remind us not only of what was lost, but of what can be gained: unity, faith, justice, a better foundation. And finally, the storms will come again. Typhoons will rage, floods will rise, but we are not left helpless. Jesus said, "If you know these things, blessed are you if you do them." John 13:17. The Philippines teaches us a lesson, not simply about disaster, but about discipleship. Build on Christ. Love your neighbor. Care for the earth. Be ready, be wise, be compassionate. The light after the storm, the light after the great typhoon, silence covered the islands. The winds were gone, but their echoes clung to the trees, and the air smelled of salt and loss. Houses were broken, streets were rivers of mud. Boats lay scattered like toys. Families huddled in darkness, whispering prayers instead of words. It was as if the whole nation was holding its breath. In one coastal town, survivors gathered inside what was left of a small chapel. Its roof was gone, its walls cracked, yet the cross still stood. There, by the light of candles made from melted wax and hope, a few voices began to sing. Their song was soft, trembling, but soon others joined. The sound grew, weak at first, then strong. Amid the ruins, faith rose like dawn. A young fisherman knelt on the wet floor and whispered, "Thank you, Lord, we are still here." Around him, others wept, not only for what they had lost, but for what they had learned, that even when everything falls, love does not. When morning came, the devastation was clearer. Roofs gone, trees uprooted, power lines tangled like thorns. Yet along the muddy streets, people moved, searching, helping, sharing. A mother gave bread to a stranger's child. A soldier carried an old woman on his back. A boy with a bucket brought water to those trapped in their homes. It was chaos, but within that chaos, compassion was blooming. The storm had broken their houses, but awakened their hearts. Father Joaquin, the priest of the ruined chapel, nailed a sign on the door. It said, "The storm destroyed our walls, but not our faith. Jesus is still here." Those words spread across the Philippines. They were shared, printed, sung. They became a declaration not of loss, but of resurrection. In the capital, protests filled the streets. People demanded answers: why flood projects had failed, why the poorest had been left most exposed. There were cries of anger, but beneath them, a call for renewal. The people had seen how corruption and greed had turned nature's fury into tragedy. The storm had not only torn through towns, it had torn through the conscience of a nation, and in that confrontation, One could almost hear Jesus overturning the tables in the temple again, saying, "My Father's house shall not be a den of thieves." Through the floodwaters, truth surfaced: what was weak, what was unjust, what had been built on sand. Yet with that truth came mercy, a chance to rebuild differently, to start again on solid rock. One of those who changed was Liza, a businesswoman from Cebu. She had once lived for comfort, her heart distant from faith. But when the typhoon struck her hometown in Leyte, her family lost everything. Her father died. Her mother survived, clutching a water-stained Bible. In her grief, Liza opened that Bible for the first time in years. The page was torn, but one verse remained clear: "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you." Isaiah 43:2. Those words became her anchor. She sold her business and founded an organization called Light After the Storm. Its mission was simple: to rebuild homes, plant trees, and restore faith. When people asked why she had given up her old life, she said, "Because I found something that can't be washed away." Months passed. Life began to return. The smell of the sea was mixed with sawdust and new paint. Children laughed again in schools built from bamboo and tarp. Fishermen mended their nets. Volunteers planted mangroves along the coast. The land, scarred and soaked, was healing, and so were the people. In one riverside village, Father Joaquin led a ceremony to bless white wooden crosses placed where the flood had taken lives. He lifted his eyes and prayed, "Lord, teach us to build on love, not fear. Teach us to prepare, to care, to trust. You calm not only the seas, but the hearts that face them." The crowd was silent. The river, once a monster, now glided gently by, reflecting the cross and the clouds. In the mountains, a farmer named Ramon rebuilt his small field where a landslide had swept everything away. Each morning he prayed before planting seeds in the fragile soil. When asked why he stayed, he said, "Because this land still listens when we treat it kindly. God doesn't ask me to run, He asks me to care." His terraces began to bloom again, green against the brown scars of the slope. He said, "Faith is not waiting for good weather. Faith is planting even when the sky is gray." When the first anniversary of the typhoon came, the entire country paused. In cities and villages, people lit candles by the sea. Church bells rang, mosques called to prayer, temples opened their gates. The nation remembered the lost, but also celebrated the living. In his homily, broadcast nationwide, Father Joaquin said, "We beg God to stop the storm, but instead, He stood with us in it. We asked for calm seas, but He taught us how to sail. The floods revealed our weakness, but also our strength. The real disaster would have been to lose our compassion." His words reached millions. Many cried, many smiled. For the first time in a long while, people saw the storms not only as punishment, but as purpose, a calling to change, to love, to rebuild differently. That night, a boy named Mateo sat by the shore with his grandmother. Their house had been rebuilt by volunteers, and the air was cool and calm. The boy asked, "Lola, why does God let the storms come?" She thought for a moment, then said, "Because sometimes, my child, we forget what matters until the wind reminds us. The storm doesn't come to destroy, but to awaken." Mateo frowned. "Will the storms come again?" "Yes," she said, smiling, "but so will the sunrise." He leaned against her shoulder, watching the horizon glow gold and pink. The waves whispered like a prayer, gentle, repentant. Weeks later, Liza's organization finished building its first village of new homes, stronger, safer, surrounded by trees. At the entrance stood a wooden sign, "Built on rock, 2026, beneath it Matthew 7:25. The rain fell, the floods came, the winds blew and beat on that house. But it did not fall, because it had been founded on the rock. Father Joaquin came to bless the homes. Children laughed, mothers cried, and the sound of hammers and hymns filled the air. "This," he said, sprinkling water on a new doorway, "is what faith looks like when it builds." The next storm season came. The people prepared, not in fear, but in faith. They repaired roofs, trained volunteers, made evacuation plans. They also prayed more, forgave more, gave more. When the winds returned, they did not break the nation. They tested it and found it stronger. Afterward, journalists reported that casualties were lower, responses quicker, communities calmer. The difference wasn't the size of the storm, it was the depth of the love. That night, rain still drizzled, but in every home, candles burned. Children sang lullabies, elders prayed, and a sense of peace, deep and sacred, covered the islands. In his small room, Father Joaquin wrote his final note of the year. We asked for the storm to stop, but God taught us how to stand. We prayed for calm, but He gave us courage. The true miracle is not that the flood was avoided, but that love rose higher than the water. He closed his notebook and looked outside. The stars were out, faint but steadfast. He whispered, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." Months later, the story of the Philippines inspired the world. Other nations facing floods, fires, and droughts shared their message that the storm is not the end, but the beginning of something sacred. Reporters wrote that the Filipino people had turned disaster into discipleship, a living sermon on resilience and grace, because what they had discovered was simple but eternal, that faith is not about avoiding pain, but walking through it with love. That hope is not a wish, but a work. That Jesus doesn't promise calm seas, He promises His presence in every wave. And so, when the rains return, and they will, may the world remember what the Philippines learned through wind and water. That every storm strips away what is false and reveals what is true. That what survives is what's built on love. And that no matter how dark the sky becomes, Jesus is still here. The wind may rise again, the waters may roar, but faith, quiet, stubborn, shining, will always outlast the storm.